All right, guys, welcome back to another SummerSlam rebooking. This time we're going to look at SummerSlam 2000. 2000 was definitely one of the great years in WWF, WWE history. Just amazing storylines. Characters were super over. Uh, it's probably the best year of Triple H's career. Probably the best year of The Rock's career. Kurt Angle's coming out party. Chris Jericho's coming out party. The Radicals, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero. Undertaker returning as American Badass. So it was very good. And so the SummerSlam was also very good. But, personally, I think it could have been better. And there's just a few things that I would definitely change. But overall, if you just kept the card the same, I wouldn't be mad at it. It was definitely a good card. Had a lot of great matches. So before I get into my rebooking, let's get into the card. So we got the opener, the right to censor, defeat Too Cool and Rikishi. Then we got X Pac defeating Road Dogg. And then we got an intergender tag match for the Intercontinental Championship. Eddie Guerrero and Chyna defeated Trish and Val Venus as Chyna won the title after pinning Trish. Then we got Jerry Lawler defeating Tazz for the Hardcore Championship. Steve Blackman defeats Shane O'Mac. And the 2 out of 3 falls match, Chris Benoit defeats Chris Jericho. The first ever TLC match, Edge and Christian defeat the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys. The Cat defeats Terry in a stink face match. Kane versus The Undertaker in a no contest match. And in the main event, The Rock defeats Triple H and Kurt Angle. So looking at this card again, there's a couple things, that kind of ruined the card. Kane versus Undertaker was an awful match. Ends in a non-finish. I don't even know why they had this on the card. Well, I do know why. Big Show was supposed to be on the card, but apparently WWF thought he was out of shape. They sent him to, lose some weight, so they had to make a change there. Kat and Terry, I know it's Attitude Era, beautiful women and all that, but didn't need to be on the card, in my opinion. Taz and Jerry Lawler, this is what I'm going to talk about too in my rebooking. They could have definitely booked Taz better, for sure. But aside from that, the TLC match was awesome. That's not gonna change. Spoiler alert. Main event was fun. Jericho and Benoit, you can never go wrong with those guys. Shane McMahon took a crazy bump, and yeah, so pretty good card, no doubt. But let's get into my card, SummerSlam 2000. All right, guys. So the first match I have is Hardcore Championship Steve Blackman versus Al Snow. So I replaced Shane McMahon. I do have Shane doing something a little later on, but this would be a good match, friendly match. Al Snow and Steve Blackman, they formed Head Cheese earlier in the year. So Steve Blackman could win the Hardcore Championship, and Al Snow, he could friendly challenge to his friend Steve Blackman, and Steve Blackman accepts, and that's pretty much the feud. They could probably have a few more, comedy segments where, Al Snow's kind of embarrassing Steve Blackman, talking about his charisma and all that. But yeah, aside from that, fun match to start the show. Steve Blackman gets to win. I thought he was definitely one of the better hardcore champions in a while. He would just like beat people up and just like walk with a suitcase after and like go home. So yeah, Steve Blackman versus Al Snow to start the show. All right, second match. We got the women's championship match. Stephanie McMahon versus Lita. They had this match on SmackDown, I believe, where Lita defeated Stephanie. The Rock was special guest referee. So yeah, I'd have the same match basically without The Rock, because Rock's he's got bigger things on his mind. But yeah, I felt like this would have been a great moment to save on pay per view. Steph's been kind of holding hostage the women's championship. So it would have been good payoff for Lita to, finally win the women's championship on the big stage. As 2000 was also Lita's coming out party. She joined Team Extreme, and she was definitely becoming one of the bigger stars in the company. Next match, Road Dogg versus X Pac. Same match they had, but after a couple losses, I'd have X Pac get frustrated with Road Dogg, and saying like he's the weak link and he's tired of pulling his weight and all that. And just as they're about to fight, Tori trying to break it up, and that's where kind of X Pac, attacks her, and yeah, so That's the end of DX. Road Dogg, officially becomes a face, and he has Tori by his side. But it's all a ruse. During the match, I'd have Tori turn on Road Dogg and show that like it was kind of a plan by X Pac and Tori to um, to embarrass Road Dogg and for X Pac to get the win. So all right, next match we got Rikishi and Too Cool versus the Right to Censor. They did have this match on the actual SummerSlam card, and yeah, I think it just made sense for the Right to Censor to target Too Cool. Obviously, all these breakdance moves, and obviously Rikishi, showing his bare ass is not PG. And in the build, I'd have Right to Censor, try and get Scotty and Grandmaster Sexay to join the RTC. They're talking about how Rikishi takes all the shine in the dances. People just love Rikishi and not them. And then you would have it where like they start to they wear the shirts, kind of like what the Dudley boys did like later on in the year. You think they're turning, and then they end up attacking the RTC. So it'll be a fun way to build the feud. And just like in real life, I think I'd have RTC win because they just became a faction, and they're starting to get some good heat. So you got to continue to maintain that heat and give them a nice win at SummerSlam. All right, next match we got the European Championship match: Eddie Guerrero versus Chyna. So I'd have Eddie win the European Championship, and Chyna would be helping him win and all that stuff. And there's a number one contenders match, let's say between Chyna and like Tazz, and Eddie accidentally helps Chyna win, but Eddie could play it off as like, oh, he wanted to face Chyna, he loves Chyna, and that he wants to give her a fair shot at the European Championship and all that. So there'll be that, and then they also have tension during a couple tag matches. Eddie slowly, he's starting to become jealous of Chyna and like how popular she is, and yeah, even like at the end of the tag matches, Eddie would tag himself in so he could get the pin win because he's just an arrogant guy. And yeah, I'd actually have Chyna defeat Eddie Guerrero, and after Chyna wants to embrace Eddie, because they had a great match. And Eddie would just clothesline her and give her a frog splash, officially ending the Mamacita era. And Eddie becomes a pretty hot heel in the mid card. All right, the next match we got the Intercontinental Championship match: Chris Benoit versus Tazz. Yeah, guys, like I said earlier, I felt like Taz was one of the biggest players misused by the WWF. WWF had a great year in 2000. They built a lot of new stars from Benoit to Jericho to Angle, but I felt like they could have done more with Taz, especially, the way he came at the Royal Rumble 2000. He was super over, and he was pretty badass, choking out Kurt Angle and all that. So, yeah. So I just have, Benoit say he's the toughest machine, greatest technical wrestler and all that. Rabid Wolverine, and then have Taz come out and make the challenge. He'd say, the Rabid Wolverine versus the Suplex Machine, the Crippler Crossface versus the Taz Mission. And Taz says, I'm the greatest technical wrestler in the WWF. So, and then during the build, they could have like watch each other's match on commentary where, they both get submission wins. And Benoit, he uses more suplexes, and then Taz also, he uses suplexes in their match. They're both trying to one off each other and just show them like that who's the better wrestler. And I think it'll be a good match. And I think I'd actually give Taz the win. I'd kind of move Benoit more to main event after this. But I think this would have been a big win for Taz, and definitely Taz definitely becomes injury prone a bit after this. But I feel like you gotta strike while the momentum is hot and give Taz a big win. And yeah, so next match we got the Brothers of Destruction versus Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon. Yes. So this is what I had Shane doing. I had Brothers of Destruction, wrecking havoc, with the faction and all that. And Linda makes the match, the Brothers of Destruction versus the McMahons, and the McMahons are super scared, and they ask for backup. Tess and Albert one day, Taker and Kane handled them. RTC, Taker and Kane handled them. So Taker and Kane are just going through all like McMahon's backup plans, even the Big Show, and have Taker and Kane take him out. So, and it'll also be like a no holds barred match. And yeah, I'd actually give Taker and Kane the win. You could have like get more people try to interfere to give the McMahons the advantage, but eventually Taker and Kane, they're too dominant. They get the win. Have Taker do that same choke slam he did at King of the Ring to Shane, and Kane and Taker could give Vince a double choke slam, and that's that. Then we got the first ever TLC match, the World Tag Team Championship match. Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys versus the Dudley Boys. Again, same match, epic match, awesome match. Um, One of the greatest matches in SummerSlam history. The only thing I would change though, I'd give the Hardy Boys the win. They were in North Carolina. The Hardy Boys were hot. I didn't really understand why they made Edge and Christian win all three of those big ladder matches, but I'd give Hardy Boys the win here. They were super over. Team Extreme with Lita. Lita winning the championship after. So, Hardy's win, and then, Lita could come out and Team Extreme could all celebrate. I believe Lita was also from North Carolina. So, it'll just be a great moment, and I think it'll make the match even more memorable because, you could actually, separate which ones, Edge and Christian won, which one the Hardys won. So, yeah, again, 5 stars, definitely. And then we got the semi-main event. Triple H with Stephanie versus Kurt Angle. Have the same build they did where, Kurt starts making moves on Stephanie, sending her flowers, love letters. Kurt's saving her. And then slowly also Triple H and Stephanie's relationship is also, starting to go downhill. Triple H gets caught, trying to show Trish a submission move, which was hilarious. Stephanie snaps. And in the go home episode of SmackDown, Kurt Angle can do the same thing, plant the kiss on Stephanie. Steph is kind of like, she doesn't like it. Then she slowly starts to like it and starts kissing Kurt Angle back. So that'll be the good build. And I felt like, we needed to capitalize on this feud. And they were kind of third reeling in the main event. And it also affected, The Rock and the championship match. So I feel like giving these guys their separate match at SummerSlam, the bigger stage, would be better. Because they did have a match at Unforgiven, but, I feel like SummerSlam would be better. And hindsight being 2020, I'd have Kurt Angle win and Stephanie join Kurt Angle. I know there's rumors that, Triple H wasn't comfortable with this. He didn't want, Steph to manage other wrestlers. But if I, could make the last decision, Kurt would win, and it builds kind of a mega heel. Kurt and Stephanie, kind of, Triple H becomes sympathetic. He becomes a face, and I think it would definitely work out. And then Kurt eventually he was gonna win the WWE Championship. So imagine Kurt Angle WWE Championship with Stephanie McMahon. Yeah, I think it'll be great. All right, guys. Now we're at the main event of the evening. We got The Rock versus Chris Jericho. You could kind of say this is kind of 1 year in the making, considering Jericho debuted interrupting The Rock almost a year ago. Welcome to Raj Jericho, and The Rock is like, who in the Rudy Poo are you and all that. So yeah, I'd just have I want to keep Kurt Angle winning the King of the Ring, just because I felt like it fit his character more, and I'd have King of the Ring become number 1 contender. But because Angle, he has his hands full with Triple H, I'd actually have him say, I don't want the shot at SummerSlam, because I got Triple H. I know it's gonna cost me. I'm gonna cash in later, and then Jericho wins the number 1 contenders match against Benoit, Kane, Taker, Fatal 4-Way, and Chris Jericho becomes the number 1 contender. And it also makes sense because Chris Jericho is kind of the uncrowned WWE champion, considering he did pin Triple H on that Raw, but obviously it was overturned. So Chris Jericho is coming to get the title. That should have been his. And yeah, they just have great mic work. Rock can say, over the year he has respected Jericho, but he still thinks Jericho can't beat the great one. Jericho can't win the big one in the WWF, and Jericho could say, he respects The Rock, but he doesn't like The Rock. He thinks he's arrogant, and they could just have a great, back and forth on the mic, like they did the year after in 2001. Just great mic work from these two. Obviously, building tension the way WWF likes it, in tag team matches and all that. And on the go home show of Raw, they could shake hands, but after that, Jericho could lock him in the walls of Jericho. And The Rock, he's trying to crawl to his title, and it'd be a good snapshot to end the build for the pay-per-view. And I'd have Jericho, put a great fight, but I'd still have The Rock win. The Rock was super hot. I think he deserved a pretty long reign, and eventually he would drop it to Kurt Angle. So I think it does make sense that The Rock retains. But after the match, they could shake hands, no heel turns like that, and that's how you end the show. So yeah, guys, that is my SummerSlam 2000. Let me know what you guys think. Let me run down the card real quick right now. For the Hardcore Championship, Steve Blackman versus Al Snow. For the Women's Championship, Stephanie McMahon versus Lita. Road Dogg versus X Pac. Rikishi and Too Cool versus The Right to Censor. For the European Championship, Eddie Guerrero versus Chyna. For the Intercontinental Championship, Chris Benoit versus Tazz. The Brothers of Destruction versus Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon. For the World Tag Team Championship, TLC match, Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boyz versus the Dudley Boyz. Triple H versus Kurt Angle. And for the WWF Championship, The Rock versus Chris Jericho. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening, and peace.